And welcome everybody to the 9th edition of the Deserve to Win podcast. As always, I'm your host, Eric J. Troutman, the czar of the TCPA. A little bit of a different format for you today, in case you couldn't tell. We are coming at you today from a fabulous mansion that PUJA found here in Paradise Valley in Arizona just last night, going really into the early morning of today. We had the big Troutman Firm holiday party. It was an absolutely fantastic event. Could not be happier with how it turned out. Pooja's going to talk to us about that here in a second. Today we spent together as a team, as you can tell, imprinting, bonding in cult-like fashion, wearing the exact same clothes. And that's what we did today for our first ever retreat. And I got to tell you, it was a really good opportunity to get together. Before we talk about that, let's introduce ourselves as always. And we'll start with the newcomer, our Florida-based Miami lady, the Countess.
I'm the Countess. My name is JENNIFFER, and I'm running our Miami office, which is in Boca Raton.
And it is so good to have you here, Ms. Countess. You are a fantastic member of this team, extremely powerful, of course, and it's just fabulous to have you. We'll go to the next person right next to you. Who are you?
My name is Angelica Munger, and I'm the Duchess, and I actually reside here in Phoenix, where we're at.
And what do you do? What do you do,
I'm
Duchess?
a paralegal.
Ah, there you are. There you are. And I guess we'll just keep going in line here. Who do I have next to me?
Well, that's an obvious. Hi, PUJA QUEENIE, co-founder of the Troutman Firm.
That's correct, the co-founder of the Troutman Firm. I can't wait to get your take on the holiday party, but we got to keep the introductions going. We'll start down here. The redhead.
Mention the red
What's going on?
My name is Tori Guidry, and I'm Dame. I'm an associate attorney at Troutman Firm.
Yeah, I feel like these red pajamas were your idea. I don't know if that's
Had
true or
nothing
not.
to do with it.
Yeah, fair.
Just
okay.
luck.
And last but not least, who do I have to my left?
My name is Brittany, and I am the Baroness, and I am an associate at the Troutman Firm.
And she is a telecom law thought leader, according to the National Law Review. Absolutely fantastic year. You know, I could do an entire video, the year in review of the Baroness's incredible successes at the Troutman Firm. We definitely would not be here and as successful as we are without the contributions of the Baroness. So fortunate and happy to have you. Look, every single law firm in the nation is going to want to try to hire you next year. I know that, but I think you're going to be loyal. I think you're going to stick around. I don't know. What do you think?
I will.
You're committed. You heard it. She can't go anywhere now. All right. So we're going to cover TCPA related events as we normally do, but it's a little bit of a different format, as you can tell, a little bit less formal, having a little bit of a good time. I figured we'd start with just kind of some thoughts about how the retreat went. But first, Pooja, why don't you break down the holiday party, kind of give us the ups and the downs, the ins and the outs, and explain why people were at this Airbnb till 4 a.m. last night.
Well, there are no downs, so let's start there. It was fantastic. We had clients and supporters throughout the years join us. It was a small event. It was limited. Sorry if you didn't make it. And you should really, really be proud of yourself if you did make the list. But, you know, it was really a time for the team to get together and reflect on how we got here, right? Eric and I have had a lot of well-wishers, a lot of supporters throughout the years, and this was a night just to give back to them, as well as giving back to our fabulous team. And, you know, the night ended up in this fabulous mansion until 4 a.m. with some awesome clients, awesome supporters, Angela cooking us a delicious Italian meal. Angela, Cheryl, I can't believe that.
Yeah.
You know, and, you know, it's the holidays, right? It's the time to reflect on the year and be grateful. And we're grateful for all the folks that joined, and we're also grateful for you, our watchers.
Wow, that's really, really articulate, extremely well said. This is kind of a holiday episode. I forgot about this. This is kind of the happy holiday episode of the TCPAWorld Deserve to Win podcast, episode 9. We do love all of you for being with us the entire year. We're going to break down some TCPA stuff, but why don't we spend just a couple of seconds, each of you, real quick, like you can share a quick anecdote from the party or something you learned today at the retreat, or just kind of give your thoughts overall about the Troutman Firm and kind of where we're at. Why don't we start with you, Jen? Just, you know, speak from the heart, talk to our listeners, give them a little gratitude and a little anecdote.
Yeah, so our holiday party was amazing. It was nothing short of amazing. We had a great time. And I would say the highlight for me was when everyone was just having dinner, talking, and just having a great time. But at some point, we all collectively got together in the middle of that. Our team here, we just stood together and we put our arms around each other and we huddled, right? And in that, it was so organic and authentic for us. And I thought I was so happy that the clients could see that because it just really shows that we want to be here, we have a vision, and we're going to do everything we can to win. And I think it's just so important that people can see that this is our life, this is what we choose to do, and we get to share it with you.
I love it, man. What a team, Jen. Really good thoughts. Angelica?
I thought the event last time was amazing. It was a great opportunity to meet local clients and supporters and connect with them. So that was great for me. And today I got to learn so much from each and every one of you. And we're just going to keep on winning in 2023.
Would you say we're super bonded? I feel like we're super bonded.
yeah.
We have matching
like,
pajamas.
Super bonded.
We're
Yeah, like this is
as far as it gets.
This is a killer team for sure. Tori, thoughts?
Well, I just think that it's interesting how the more time we spend together, even like working or doing this, we come back stronger and stronger each time. You know, a lot of people, they tend to like the people they work with less the more time they spend with them. But us, on the other hand, you know, we just keep getting stronger and closer.
We find a way.
So let's throw it over to you, Baroness, thought leader. Like, you're kind of taking over the team. I thought, like,
Baroness,
PUJA
didn't
was
you
gonna
get a
take things
toast last
over.
night or something, right?
Yeah,
I think I
the
was like,
Dom
Eric-
P comes out, and I'm trying to speak, and the Baroness is like, shh, I got this.
That's how it went down, right?
What'd you think?
No, the event was amazing. Everybody looked beautiful, and all the men looked dapper. They were looking tip-top shape. The food was amazing. It was just a great turnout, and yeah, we're so thankful for all our clients that came and showed up and showed love and support, and yeah, it's been great.
I do have to say, you ladies looked remarkable. If you guys haven't seen the pictures, you owe it to yourself to check it out. We all clean up pretty well, I dare say. All right, so enough about that. Look, if you didn't make it, hopefully next year, I'm thinking about kind of expanding this, doing like a TCPAWorld sort of gala. Because we really do love all of you. We want you to all be part of this, as you can tell, right? Our energy is never supposed to be exclusive. It's always supposed to be inclusive. We want all of our well-wishers, all of our fans, our community to really interact with us and have fun with us. Like Angela Sherrill back here, like dancing around in the background. I know you can't see this, but it's a phenomenal thing that we're a part of. And this team is truly amazing. I've never had a team like you guys. You are incredible. PUJA, of course, you know that you are the absolute best lawyer that I think I've ever known. Certainly as a litigator, you are incredible. And this team backing you up, and the Baroness, I think you've been able to accomplish so quickly. It's exceeded my every expectation. So I'm so grateful and so very, very, very happy. And I think that really came across last night as we were kind of toasting to everybody. And it was very meaningful for me. I really enjoyed it. And the retreat today, I think, was fantastic.
Absolutely.
I learned a lot from each and every one of you. And I think we're really kind of well-oriented and, shall we say, rejuvenated and ready to go into next year. All right, so let's start breaking down some TCPA news. I know actually like half of you just turned this off because you're like, oh, we want to hear about the party. TCPA news, I don't care about that. But let's break down some TCPA news just in case anybody here is actually looking for some information about the TCPA. That is what we purvey. Why don't we start with you, Britt?
Sure. So there's this important big case called Borden versus eFinancial.
Huge.
In Borden, the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals rewrote the statute to reinterpret what an ROSNG is. In essence, Borden converted the ROSNG into an ROSTNG, with the T standing for telephone, which was directly contradicting what the U.S. Supreme Court, or is inconsistent with what the U.S. Supreme Court case held, or the Supreme Court's interpretation of ROSNG. And ROSNG is what triggers the TCPA, not an ROSTNG.
Well, as well said, there's a bunch of acronyms in there, of course. We're all running on about 2.5 hours of sleep, so I'm going to give everyone a pass. So, of course, an ROSNG is, of course, the random or sequential number generator. We know that post-Facebook, right, 47 USC 227A1 is read to mean that any dialer that stores or produces a telephone number using that ROSNG is going to be an ATDS. That's an automatic telephone dialing system. Now, Borden, right, the Ninth Circuit looked at that definition and it interpreted it, this is really weird what it did, interpreted it from a plain language, express language perspective to be different than the way the US Supreme Court had just interpreted the same statute. And oh, by the way, different from the way the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeal, the same court, interpreted it, the same statute back in September of 2018. So you've got a court in the Ninth Circuit in Borden disagreeing with itself from 2 years, its former self from 2 years ago, which is fine, like we all change our minds 2 years later. But also with the US Supreme Court, which is just not allowed to do. So it's gonna be really fascinating to see what happens now that there's not only a circuit split on what an ATDS is, when you look at the Panzarella opinion, of course, in the Third Circuit, diametrically opposed to the position that the Borden court took, but you also have a split between the Ninth Circuit now and the Supreme Court, which again, should just never happen, but I don't know what these guys out in the Ninth Circuit are even thinking. The good news, of course, is that the interpretation is very narrow. So if you're not using a system that is generating telephone numbers, you're not using an ATDS under Borden. That's very good news for defendants. But again, this could be a big trap, Pooja, and you were the one that actually pointed that out to me, because if, of course, the Borden rule gets interpreted, it gets set aside, and people relied on the Borden rule, then they're going to be in a situation where perhaps retroactively their conduct that used to be legal is illegal.
Yep, exactly. And we've seen the Ninth Circuit do this before in the Marks decision too, right? Taking on a decision that, regardless of whether it's favorable to the defense side or not, but taking on a side that doesn't make sense, really, right?
Well, that's rewrote the statute once,
they're
rewrote the
doing it
statute again.
exactly.
We don't learn from our mistakes around here. By the way, I respect that. Okay, so thank you very much, Baroness. I can see why you're a go-to thought leader around here. Tori, why don't we start or go over to you, the dame. What do we got?
I have the Highmark settlement. It was Walker v. Highmark. It came out of the Western District of Pennsylvania. It is basically a big win all around from the plaintiffs from what I see. There's a $1,300 per class member settlement for this. Yeah, each. It's $70-something per call. So it's around $9 million of liability, with the class being at around 7,400 members. And it's also a win for the attorneys as well, because they get 1/3 of that settlement, which is typically high, but the court said they put in 2 years of work, and there was a lot of work that went into this case. And the named plaintiffs also got the outer ring of what's allowed for their piece. They're getting 10 grand for one of them and 2,500 for the other two named plaintiffs.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So wait, how much per class member are they going to recover?
$1,300, which is
$1,300 bucks.
Yeah.
Should we say that Highmark is the high watermark for TCPA settlements? Come on, come on, anybody? No, to me, what's remarkable about that settlement, a couple of things. One, that's a very high recovery per class member. You typically do not see class members receiving real dollars like that, over $1,000 each. That's very unusual. So from a certain perspective, good job with the plaintiff's lawyers, right? They actually got some money for the class for once. But what's really remarkable to me is it is highly unusual for a TCPA class settlement to be paid on a per call basis. And here the settlement was actually, what, $70 per call?
Yeah, around, I believe, $78.
That's crazy. I would never allow that. So if you're listening to me and you're a TCPA defense lawyer and you're in a mediation and the plaintiff's lawyers are trying to get you to produce the number of calls that are at issue or give you a settlement based on a per call figure, take it from the czar. That's craziness, right? That's not the way these cases settle. This is a very unusual settlement. To me, I don't know who the defense lawyer was. I don't know kind of the backstory. I didn't look it up. But let me just say, I'll bet you they hadn't done these very often. Let's just put it that way. Because usually a defendant in a TCPA case can push back on that. You're never going to see an $1,100 recovery. I think more typical would be $40 to $60 per class member, not per call even. So even on a per call basis, they're at 78, where typically a per person settlement is more like 50 or 60. And obviously they had more than one call. So this thing is like 10 times, 20 times higher than it should have been. Good work to the plaintiff's bar, I suppose. Give them a little credit, but I don't know what Highmark was thinking. I'll just go ahead and say it. But I guess, again, if your name's Highmark, you set the high water mark, good for you. But good breakdown, Tori, I appreciate that. Let's throw it all the way over to Florida, so far away. See that way there? It's like, we're going all the way across the country, across the table, over to Florida. What do we got, Jen?
So I looked at a case out of the Northern District of Mississippi, and the court blocked a discovery, which was really interesting because it was pre-certification, but the defendant never responded, so it was a default judgment, and the plaintiff came forward and wanted to get discovery on individual, the identity of the cast members, and also damage discovery. And the court was like, no, not yet. Pre-certification, you're not touching damages discovery, but we'll let you have the call logs. We'll let you have the third parties that service the defendant. We'll let you have that information as well. So they did give up some information, but the court did not let them just get, open the floodgates, which is good to know, right?
Yeah, well, the core here is that the plaintiffs were trying to obtain discovery regarding the individual class members' identities and consent records for the individual class members. And the court said no, and the court was correct to say no. You do not, it's black letter law that a plaintiff does not need to identify class members pre-certification. Now, they have to have a theory for ascertaining class member identity, but they don't actually have to have that identity. So whereas the court was correct to permit certain levels of information that went to, for instance, numerosity, when the plaintiff was actually trying to get to the merits of the class member's individual claims, the court said, no, that is not discovery that you need at the certification stage. You may never even get the case certified. And if you don't, why are you intruding on the identities, right? I think this is very confidential information, right? If you are a customer of a business, they have your phone number, they have your name, they have other identifying information about you. That's personal identifying information. The court is basically saying, no, the company does not have to turn that over to the plaintiff's lawyers and to their experts who have servers in their basement and use thumb drives and coffee shop Wi-Fi, right? That could lead to a data breach. That's a very dangerous situation. Until the case is actually certified, you're not going to get that kind of information. But obviously, the plaintiff does need some information in order to seek certification. I think the court did a pretty good job of drawing that line. What do you think?
I think they did a great job to draw the line in the sand, because I think it's too much information. We can't just open the floodgates and give all the information. It's not the time for it, and you need to make your case.
Well, Jen, I love having you on the team. You're an absolute lazer. You've really been kind of slicing stuff up down there in Miami or Boca Raton. I guess people are telling me it's not the same thing. I don't know, South Florida. But it's wonderful to have you, and I'm glad that everyone got a chance to spend some time with you, especially me. All right, Angelica, what you got?
So I am bringing to you the new update that's going to go into effect in the state of New York
Oh my goodness.
for
That's a big one.
telemarketers. It was just recently signed by the governor, and I want to say it goes into effect after 90 days. So I think you're looking at like early March. And it's not a new requirement. However, the placement of a disclosure is new. So I believe you have to now state your name, state the company that you work for, and then you need to state the fact that the consumer or whoever you're calling could be added to that company's do not call list.
Wow.
So it has to come as a third thing, as a third statement, the third disclosure within your call.
Wow. So hi, everybody. This is Eric calling from TCPAWorld, and you can be added to our wonderful DNC list if you're so inclined. So I think if you do it in a salesy way, people will tune out, right?
Right.
You can be added to my DNC list. People are like, well, I'm not going to listen to that. Well, no, that's obviously big news. And what's also interesting is that the definition of telemarketing is pretty dang broad in New York. I think it applies to consented and non-consented calls. Is that right?
I mean, I've read it 100 times just to make sure. And I think it applies.
Angelica, of course, you are our state law wonk. You have this stuff covered, coast to coast. And I love having you. So, the czar knows many things, but I don't pretend to have every single state law memorized. I don't. I really don't. But Angelica comes in, she's got this really hardy kind of regulatory background, compliance background, looking at the state level issues. And it's just amazing to have your wealth of knowledge on the team. It's like taking an encyclopedia and kind of bringing it into, my encyclopedia. And so, a couple of years sitting in between, it's like an encyclopedia sandwich over there. But it's just wonderful to have you. You really have just brought an entire additional dimension to our team. Let me pause, by the way, because I just realized we went through almost the entire show. And we didn't address the fact that we're all wearing sunglasses. Like, why the hell are we wearing sunglasses? Whose idea even was this?
I think it was mine.
Brittany, why are we wearing sunglasses?
It's a cool look,
No, it's not because it's cool. It's because we all slept like 2 hours. And we all have bags under our eyes. And PUJA didn't want to put makeup on, so here we are. Plus, it kind of looks like one of those videos from the 80s. What was that video? Satisfaction, where all the girls had really red lipstick and they had big glasses on. All right, whatever. Okay, so one last development I want to talk about, really kind of an important one, and this is the Earth Access FCC ruling that I think a lot of folks have heard about. kind of a confusing ruling from a certain perspective because Earth Access, it's not even clear what they do. They are apparently a carrier, it looks like an originating carrier, but they might be a communications platform. Not entirely sure from the ruling, but either way, Earth Access was creating several ITG complaints, either the industry traceback tickets, some complaints had come up, they had not been responded to, the FCC got involved, and essentially what Earth Access did when it wanted to actually defend itself was it pointed to, this is the important part, it pointed to some disclosures that had allegedly been accepted by some consumers. Now the issue is that the calls that were the subject of the scrutiny were student loan assistance calls. Like, hey, you might qualify for Joe Biden's $10,000 reduction. Give us a call to find out, right? But when the Earth Access pointed to the disclosures that allegedly provided the consent, there was a pretty big problem. These disclosures had to do with health care. So people were coming onto websites looking for information about Medicare or healthcare supplements, and down below in the little fine print, right, what they were finding was a disclosure that said, we can share your information with marketing partners regarding just about anything. And just about anything, according to Earth Access, included these student loan calls, right? So you've got a multi-vertical consent issue, and the FCC was strikingly clear, more clear than it has ever been, that that kind of multi-vertical consent is not enforceable. And that is enormous news. Now, it is possible, and this is the way a lot of people are casting it, and I tend to think there's some truth to this, that is just kind of one small part of the overall analysis because Earth Access was a bad player. It was pretty clear that Earth Access was allowing fraudulent traffic, that these student loan help you out calls were really not that, right? They were probably fraudulent. So it was kind of a scam to begin with. So we think that the FCC was very, very concerned, and they just, were kind of throwing out the baby with the bathwater in saying that multi-vertical consents are not going to be permitted. But I don't know, right? This is a big ruling. It's something that's very important to keep in mind. And there's another piece to it, a secondary piece, which is the FCC also found that the marketing partners hyperlink, which went out to a secondary page that had a list of all the partners that might be provided consent. That is the person that all the companies that consumer is saying, yes, you have my consent. These people can call me. It had 5,200 companies on it. 5,200. And the FCC looked at that and said, no. You cannot have a disclosure where in a hyperlink, right, a consumer is agreeing to be contacted by over 5,000 companies. The FCC had a very short analysis on this. There wasn't any precedent cited. It just basically said, just flat said, we find that a partner page that has 5,000 partners is not consent for any of them. So even the companies that might have been healthcare companies, even companies that might have been core to like the Medicare product that consumer was actually looking for, even they got their seemingly valid consent thrown out because the marketing partner page was too big. Really, really big deal. What do you think, Pooja? You broke that down on a blog.
Yeah, I think the biggest takeaway is that you have to look at this, because I have a lot of clients who were freaked out about this, right? They're a little bit unnerved by this. And I understand, and it's good, right, when my clients are focusing on this. But to me, it's important to understand that was in conjunction with listing 5,000 plus partners, along with the fact that Earth was actually a spam company, it appears at least, in conjunction with that these disclosures were being captured on websites like gohealth.com when you're trying to sell a student loan, right? So I don't want folks to take this away and think they can't buy leads anymore.
Was GoHealth the actual website?
GoHealth.com was one of the websites, correct?
Is GoHealth a bad actor? What do you
No,
think?
not that I know.
I mean, if it's really GoHealth, if GoHealth really does have a disclosure that has 5,000 people on its marketing partners page, if those are really the facts, I don't like that. I don't think that company is going to be meeting the reach standards. I'll tell you that.
I don't know GoHealth. I haven't checked out their websites. I probably should check them out after this podcast. But for me, it's important to understand they're looking at each element, each piece, in order to determine whether it's compliant with the TCPA, the consent stuff. We always talk about the holistic approach of looking at disclosures and capturing consent. It's not just the Troutman 9. It's in conjunction with the operations of the business. It's in conjunction with the website form. It's in conjunction with who your partners are. And I really think the FCC is doing a pretty good job, actually. I know they're a little bit slow and they're not as detailed in their orders, but I think they're on the right track of where their mindset is as looking at everything holistically.
Well, what the FCC is plainly doing, if anyone who has eyes has to see that they're focused on the carriers, right? Think about this. The calls at issue were not made by Earth.
Yeah.
They were made by a third party. The third party had purchased the leads apparently from GoHealth. I didn't know that was news. I just learned that right now. The FCC did not come down on GoHealth. The FCC did not come down on the caller, the company that was actually offering this quote unquote, lending service assistance program for consumers and student loan borrowers. It came down on the carrier. And the order that it issued was an order telling all the other carriers to stop carrying that carrier's traffic. And we saw the exact same thing with Global UC just a few weeks ago, right? Yeah. The FCC is becoming an executioner, and its method of choice is not, beheading, and it's not using one of those frying chairs that you sit in, the electric chair. It's using death by like 1,000 cuts, where like every other carrier, right? The other carriers didn't do anything wrong, but the other carriers are the ones that are ordered to do something. You shall not carry the traffic of Global UC. You shall not carry the traffic of Earth Access. And you can imagine if you're a carrier, you're like, whoa, wait a second, what? A federal agency is telling me whose traffic I can take and whose traffic I can't? Big First Amendment issues there, guys, big. Leave that alone for a second. Imagine like operationalizing that as a carrier. Like you're now having to figure out whose traffic you can take in and have like a blacklist, and God forbid you accidentally carry some of this traffic you're not allowed to carry. It's a remarkable thing. To me, it's a remarkable thing that the FCC is doing. It's remarkable, of course, for most of us that they're looking and scrutinizing at these disclosures. But when you go past that and you think about from a meta perspective, right? Whoa, without any notice to anybody in the entire industry, no notice, the FCC just issued a critical ruling that multi-vertical consents are invalid. What in the world, right? Where did that come from? Now, under PDR resources, I can virtually guarantee you this is not going to be treated as a final legislative ruling. There's not going to be deference here under the Hobbs Act. It doesn't pass the smell test. But still, from an enforcement viewpoint, that's wild, right? That the FCC would just take that position, boom, out of left field, no warning. And same thing with this marketing partner list. Now, I think we're all smart enough to know that if you've got 5,000 names on a list, that's probably not going to fly. I think we could have all detected that was the likely outcome there. But still, it's the first time that this ruling was ever issued. There was no effort to get public comment on this. They didn't issue any kind of an NPRM to say, hey, we're going to issue a rule, potentially this is not allowed. They just said, for the first time in an enforcement proceeding, while they're issuing the death penalty, for God's sake, that you're not allowed to do it. I don't know. I struggle with this. I struggle with rulemaking through enforcement. I struggle with companies losing their life, people losing their jobs. Let's just call it what it is, right? People going bankrupt potentially because the FCC never articulated a standard, and then it only did so after it was too late for the company to do anything about it. I don't know. I struggle with it. Again, I'm not saying that Earth Access is a good company. I know people out there probably like, oh, cry me a river, Troutman. These guys were scumbags. And maybe they were, right? I'm not saying they weren't. But what I'm looking at this moment isn't the conduct of them. I'm looking at the conduct of the government, and I'm just concerned, right? This can't become, in my opinion, this should not become the way that the business is done at the FCC. There needs to be notice. There needs to be, frankly, more thought put into how these issues are being analyzed, and a record should be built before we get these off-the-cuff kind of rulings in terms of what is and isn't going to constitute consent, especially in a world right now where we know public knowledge, the NCLC and others have requested that the FCC shut down essentially the entire lead generation industry by finding that you have to provide consent directly to the caller, and the intermediary consent over the internet is not valid to begin with. That would be an absolutely crippling ruling, not just for the lead generation industry, but in my opinion, for e-commerce in this country. It's a terrible idea, but nobody's really talking about it. Only me. I'm the only guy that talks about this stuff.
One thing just to add, the order did address that they're doing a deeper investigation into the lead generation marketing partners that Earth Access was using.
Oh, interesting.
So I suspect there might be more to come from this order. It'll be really interesting to see if the SEC digs into who Earth Access was partnering up with and what they determine and what their investigation ends up entailing. So I'm keeping an eye out on that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, look, guys, I really, I think we should wrap the show now. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. We're just going to go around, give some final thoughts just for the year. This is our last podcast for the year. Give some love, give some hugs and kisses, some final thoughts for 2022, and best wishes for 2023. Why don't we start with you, Tori? What do you have for our fine watchers and listeners?
Nothing, just like...
Nothing? we hate you. Hopefully your holidays are terrible.
No. I'm excited for the
Nothing.
next year.
That's it? That's all we got?
That's all I got right
All right.
now.
Tori hates you. That's the takeaway. Brittany, what do you got?
Look, we've had a great 2022. The Troutman Firm was established in 2022.
Yes.
So we're super excited for 2023. We're going to be growing bigger and stronger, and we couldn't have done it without you guys and all your love and support too. So thank you.
Very good. Jen, what do you think?
I'm going to piggyback off of Brittany because, well, she's our thought leader. So
There you go. There you go.
You know, and you gotta know where to go. But yeah, I want to say thank you to everyone that has supported us. I'm so excited to join the Troutman Firm and build our office on the other coast. I think it's going to be, I know it's going to be an amazing year, and we're going to win. And that's what we do, and we're going to have fun while we do it.
All right. I love it. Angelica?
Well, I think the common theme here is like gratitude and just feeling grateful for this team at the Troutman Firm, and also for you, the viewers, you know, that are reading TCPAWorld and keeping up with the Troutman Firm. You know, we're grateful for all of you as well and your support.
And Pooja, what do you think?
Well, what I'm looking most forward to is next year when we become Troutman Amin.
Oh, I knew you were going to say that.
However,
that's true.
I am grateful for the foundation that the Troutman Firm has set for my career. I'm excited, I'm ecstatic for Troutman Amin, and I'm excited to continue adding more and more partners, and hopefully my thought leader over here will be the next one. But you know, there's so much energy and work to be done, but we're going to take a little bit of a snooze fest for the next week or so.
Oh, by the time they see this, it'll probably be over, but yeah.
And it's not because we don't love you folks. It's just, you know, we need to reset those engines.
Yeah, you know, I think one of my favorite things, everyone talked about the anecdotes in the party, but I didn't. It was that we had a couple of folks that weren't clients. They weren't even necessarily supporters in the true sense of the word. They were just kind of like TCPAWorld super fans, if you will. They were just kind of like really big, nerdy fangirls and boys that just loved TCPAWorld and like engage with me all the time. I thought it'd be funny to just kind of like invite them. And they were so cool, right? Like, you know, because sometimes you wonder, like, are these gonna be like creepers or something? But like, no, they were amazing. And it's just like having that energy, that excitement of people who like we've touched, right? Like through our engagement and through our efforts to better enlighten everybody. It was really fun. For me, that was like really one of my favorite parts, where it's like, you know, they're not a client. There's nothing, I'm not getting anything out of them, but they just love what we do. They love, and they're very energetic about it. And you know, just to kind of feed off of that for a second and see it like reflected back at you. It's just, I don't know. That was really, really cool.
You know, when Brittany and I attended the Link Unite event, it was the same energy. It was so awesome. Thank you, Amanda. Thank you, Sarah, by the way. I have to give a plug to Link Unite. Thank you so much. Along with being grateful, you ladies I'm incredibly grateful for the organization that you guys have set up and allowing us, the Troutman Firm ladies, to be a part of it. But same energy at the Link Unite conference was, you know, just fans. You know, we've never met some of these folks. They're not clients necessarily. I hope they don't have to become clients, right? I hope they stay out of trouble, but just true fans. I love the Dame. Who's the Dame, right? Baroness, are you the one who puts up articles? And it's just like that energy, right? Like that's what we do it for, right? To help you guys out and allow you guys to see us as the approachable folks.
So as I was saying, now, look, in the conclusion though, honestly guys, happy holidays. Thank you so much for everything you've done for us this year. We've had a moderate level of success. We could not have done it without all of you. We're going to keep working extremely hard. I mean, look at this team. Look how dedicated they are. Trust me, like we had the retreat today. These folks, we are just fire-breathing dragons right now. Like we are ready to come out and slay for you. And I love you folks. Thank you so much. Happy holidays. Please have a restful, a happy and triumphant new year, and we'll be back together in 2023. Thank you so much.